Hey, what is up, everybody? Apologies for the delay there. What is up? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast, coming to you live after the Chargers' victory against the Las Vegas Raiders 24-19. Cannot wait to talk about all of that with my guys Tyler and Alex, as well as Arjun. We got the quad box going again. Had to do the podcast in a big way after the Chargers showed up and got a huge victory today. So, Arjun, man, we'll start with you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. I think this could have this is a great first NFL Sunday for me. A lot of things went right.
It really was for you, yeah.
I think I deserve a little bit of a victory lap. You know, my Bengals and Joe Burrow, you could say slander was a little bit justified. And you know, not only did they not cover 6.5, they lost outright against the Steelers, who trotted out a NCAA offense. And so it was amazing, right? And obviously, you know, Chargers winning, that was really fun to watch. But a pretty good day all around for me, just watching football.
Yeah, there are few better outcomes on a Sunday than Joe Burrow really struggled, Derek Carr really struggled, Justin Herbert was awesome, and the Chargers won. So love to see all of that. Alex is here as well, man. Big day for you and your propaganda as well. I'm sure we will get into Mr. DeAndre Carter throughout the rest of this show. We got Victory Pink going on. What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I thought that I saw that Arjun tweet this morning where he was like, I really, changed my ways on the Bengals. I'm like, you can't hide this obvious reverse jinx attempt. And then, of course, the Steelers end up taking the W there in the final seconds. So I was excited for Arjun on that one, even though it's Pittsburgh. But great Sunday all around. The Chargers get the victory. DeAndre Carter's 1-0 and Josh McDaniels is 0-1, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, we got so much agenda covered today. It was just fantastic to see. Tyler, man, you, of course, were the only one of us that was at the game. I hope that your sister had a good birthday. Hopefully was converted to Chargers fandom. But how you doing, man?
I'm doing fan-freaking-tastic. And yes, happy birthday to my sister Becca, who doesn't watch the show. But if you ever see it or hear it, happy birthday. She had a great time. Thank you to all the Chargers fans who were more than willing to give her alcohol. So she had a very, very nice time on her 22nd birthday. And yeah, man, got to witness some history. Chargers, Raiders for the first time in week 1. And it was a win. So that felt pretty good.
Yeah, man, it was a fantastic event. Of course, have to ask you about the environment. It felt pretty neutral-ish on TV, but what was your sense in the stadium?
I could not believe it. So, I mean, I've been there since 2010, not at SoFi, but at Chargers Raiders games and the home games, and that's the best I've seen for a Chargers turnout in a while. Now, it was still Raiders majority, don't get me wrong, and the Raiders being the same sort of team and fan base. Sorry, my voice is gonna go. They have like their chance. They know what they're doing. Chargers, we haven't really reestablished our identity here in LA. We don't have the San Diego Superchargers song. So the Raiders fans were louder. I do think it was 60% Raiders fans. But that was a big difference from last year. If anybody in the chat went to the game last year, it felt like you and the guy next to you, and that was about it. Like 10% Chargers fans maybe. This was pretty solid. And even my dad, a Raiders fan, said, hey, it feels about 50-50 in here. And so for him objectively to say that, I think that's a win for Chargers and Chargers fans. It didn't look like that in the beginning, but as the game really started, like you guys showed up. You hear about it all the time. Oh, Chargers fans don't show up. And then you kind of don't to Raiders games. But to this particular one, you guys put forward the money and you did. And it was so nice to see not a majority, but a huge step in the right direction.
What's up, Arjun?
No, someone said Tyler sounds like Collinsworth smoking packs tonight.
I have no comments on that one.
I don't know. What's your boss?
Now here's
smoking?
a guy.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, man. No, appreciate the insight there. I thought it was in terms of like the fan noise on the TV, it sounded like a neutral site game, which I think is absolutely win here. They only showed like 2 or 3 pans of Raiders fans, which was definitely an improvement from last Monday Night Football, where it was like Raiders fans. So shout out there. So before we get started into our official game recap, have to give a quick shout out to Tim Stewart, first super chat of the day. Said can't stick around to watch the show, but wanted to celebrate week 1. He said let's go. And then hashtag FTR. So appreciate the support there. And then we also had a new YouTube member, which is always love to see that, Ben Haskin, newly into the YouTube membership. So had a great time in the Discord this afternoon, talking football with everybody that's over there. So make sure and go check that out. All right, let's dive right into this game. I want to start with Alex here. Your general takeaway, your biggest takeaway from this afternoon's game against the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, I guess just general vibes of the game at first. It felt like it was pretty even, like from the beginning, just because the Chargers defensive line, particularly on third downs early on, wasn't getting as much pressure as they did later in the game. It just felt like everything was a little bit discombobulated at first, and then they get that, big DeAndre Carter, touchdown drive. They're up 17-3, and it just sort of, I don't know if it's stalled from there, but they played well enough against the Raiders from on that point forth. And the defensive effort was just crazy. We can talk about how Justin Herbert played, obviously, which was really great. But this is the first game in a while where it's like the defense, particularly in the second half, took the Raiders, out of multiple drives and gave the ball back to Justin Herbert for the offense to be able to do something or just burn clock or take the Raiders out of the game. So I think the big takeaway in this game really is the defense, particularly when JC Jackson eventually does come back, and what this can look like going forward. So that was, for me, my big takeaway. Obviously, Justin Herbert is fantastic. The offense looked great at points, some confusing calls in some places. But going forward, I think this defense and this, Chargers team really showed why they can contend, especially when JC Jackson comes back and, things start to kind of go in the right direction in a few other areas.
Yeah, man, this defense was outstanding. And I think this shows you a glimpse. Like, you're not going to get this kind of defensive output every single week. 3 interceptions,
sure,
6 sacks. That's not going to happen every single week. But you feel confident about trusting this defense going forward. And again, doing this without JC Jackson, I think should not go understated. And Asante Samuel certainly took some lumps today. But man, he battled his ass off. That interception was crazy. Just a super highly intelligent play. So I think you start with the defense, and I agree with Alex for sure. Just the way that they were able to make Carr frustrated, that they were able to make plays on the back end. This is what you expected from this kind of defense. And now you don't have to rely on Justin Herbert being Superman every single week because you have a terrible defense. Now you have a unit that you are capable of trusting to perform week in and week out. Again, even if you're not getting, 3 interceptions and 6 sacks every single week, they will hold up significantly better than last year's unit for sure.
Yeah. Oh my God. We got to see complimentary football today. I couldn't remember the last game that they did that. Maybe it was against the Giants and Patrick Graham. But, listen, 24 points, no Keenan Allen. Trey Pipkins at tackle. We didn't know how that was going to go. Keenan Allen basically barely plays, 1/3 of the game or whatever.
Yeah.
And the defense gets theirs. And special teams looks good. I mean, really kudos to whoever you want to say is in charge of this team. Spanos family, Tom Telesco, Brandon Staley, whoever. Like, they put together a team that played complementary football. I mean, J.K. Scott, the punter, got a game ball today, but so did, DeAndre Carter. So did Khalil Mack. They built a team, Gerald Everett, Bryce Callahan, all these guys that they brought in, they played complementary football for the most part. And that's just not something I'm used to seeing. When this team, and this is week 1, this is kind of sloppy. They're still trying to figure things out. Man, when they really start to get rolling and guys started getting healthy, hopefully, man, there's a good team here.
Yeah, you see the new guys really paying dividends across the board. Even Trey Pipkins. I know he's not necessarily a new guy, but I mean he held Max Crosby to 0 sacks today. So I'm sure we'll talk about that for sure. But the new veteran presences, aside from like one bad Kyle Van Noy rep against that running back, I thought were pretty much outstanding today. So I think you definitely give a tip of the cap to the roster construction. Arjun, your big takeaway from this performance today?
Yeah, big takeaway. Justin Herbert is him, and he
is.
will take this team as far as the team will go as far as he wants them to go. And I think we'll talk about kind of the play calling later, but I mean, man, when they put the ball in his hands, I mean, it was just fun to see, like the splits between when they ran the ball in early downs versus passing the ball was just crazy. And I mean, I had to, like, it was unfortunate. I was in a club meeting during like the second quarter, so like I was like I couldn't really like pay as much attention to it. So I missed a couple of throws here and there, but I like rewatched, and some of the throws to DeAndre Carter down the seam, the touchdown ball, which I saw was, I mean, that is a tough throw. And like, I think right now you see that Herbert really belongs in that elite echelon. And if anyone says otherwise, I mean, I really don't know what to say. Even with a defense as bad as the Raiders are, I mean, he was still fitting throws in that maybe like only Mahomes and Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers can make. So really looking forward to see him on prime time on Thursday night. I guess the other big takeaway is Jerry Tillery isn't a NFL player anymore.
Oh, man. As far as Herbert goes, man, I said in the stands enough times, and only last year I guess I saw Herbert, but you watch him again, and there's throws where I swear it's going to doink off a Raiders player's helmet, and it just sails perfectly right over, And then you watch Derek Carr, who I think almost had a really good game, but he just couldn't get it there a couple of times. Whereas Herbert was the guy that could get it there in those situations too, who could extend the play. Yeah, Herbert is him, man. And there were MVP chants in the crowd today. And I got chills, man. Like, it really felt like it. I think we're on our way.
I do want to say real quick, I kind of disagree with Tyler on the complimentary football. I did want to see the run game get, established a little bit more. Like, obviously I want them to pass, but I think me and Steven did talk about how the interior D-line was the weak point of the Raiders, and didn't really seem like the Chargers took like full advantage of that. So I was a little bit concerned there when it didn't work early, and then they kind of went back to it late in the game, which we'll discuss. But yeah, I think the last part of a complimentary game on all fronts was the run game, and I think we struggled a little bit there.
No, I think that's absolutely fair. And, I think you can definitely talk about playing complementary football in terms of the defense, in terms of the special teams, although Dustin Hopkins did miss a field goal, which I'm sure we can talk about as well. But, I mean, Ted Wynn pointing this out, you see an instance, I think, that really kind of shows where Justin Herbert is at and where Derek Carr is at. The Chargers run a Tampa 2 instance, and Derek Carr ends up throwing an interception, and then a few plays later the Raiders are doing a Tampa 2 kind of coverage, and Justin Herbert fires it. What did you call it, Arjun? A piss missile, I think is the phrase that you were used on Twitter. To DeAndre Carter over the middle was. Yeah, I've heard that expression before for sure, but I think that's just an embodiment of where those two players are at. And the plays that Justin Herbert can make, like this is not news to us. We know that Justin Herbert can do these things. That touchdown throw to Gerald Everett, man, was an insane amount of velocity on that throw. So Justin Herbert stepped up, man. He came to battle today, and I thought he played outstanding. Super efficient with the football. I really only felt like he had one throw that I think you could kind of take back, and maybe that was the slant to Mike Williams late in the game. But that was really like my only issue with Herbert in terms of what he did through there today. Alex, any thoughts there?
Yeah, no, I mean, we talk about just how he was able to spread the ball around. Like, imagine telling someone before the game that his 3 touchdowns were to DeAndre Carter, Xander Horvath, and Gerald Everett, right? Like, it's just
that's like Phillip Rivers, like when he
yeah. It was like, here's Dontrell Inman and Travis Benjamin. But no, I thought that, just having that kind of a game, considering the situation, obviously Keaton leaving early in the game, not utilizing Austin Eckler quite in the way that it seemed like they wanted to, Mike Williams having a dud of the game, and Justin Herbert still gets it done, right? And is still able, regardless of like who was in the positions that they were, the fact that he was still able to get it to those guys and kind of put the team, on his back, if you will, I just thought was really impressive.
Yeah, absolutely agree there. So we'll get some super chat shout outs. You guys are crushing it tonight. Really appreciate that.
Seriously.
Elron Hoyabembe, I'm sure I said that wrong. Arjun put 100 on your Mahomes over. Here's some back, brother. Man, the Chiefs look freaking really good today. So, Arjun, that was a really good call on the week 1 Chiefs talk there. There was another one. There was actually a few other ones. Dylan Bickle, he said, never felt nervous today. Such an odd feeling. I don't share that feeling. I was definitely nervous. I was definitely sweating a little bit. The nervous energy didn't hit me until the Raiders came out and scored a touchdown in the second half. But I wasn't nervous like entering the game at all today. So that is definitely an odd feeling. But I was definitely sweating bullets there a little bit after Devontae scored that touchdown early in the second half.
Yeah, I was good throughout the whole morning. Felt pretty good. Yeah, somewhere in that second half, I was going, oh, man, I'm going to have to talk about this weird way the Chargers lost again, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Rich E, another super chat here. I was really expecting our run game to dominate this Raider D-line.
Me too.
I think all of us were, and I think the Chargers were as well. So we can certainly get into that one as well.
Yeah, it's weird. I think the way the offensive line played, it was flipped. Like I thought they would have done better in the run game and then like struggled a little bit in the pass game, but 0 sacks allowed. And I think the Raiders did get a decent amount of pressure, but it wasn't anything like Herbert, like the pocket was like completely collapsing, like the Bengals game where Bengals O-line just got completely worked by the Steelers. I think the pass protection was awesome, and I think the run game sucked a little bit, but it was definitely flipped in the way that I thought it was going to play out.
Yeah, Joe Alexander as well says it was amazing to watch a run defense give up mostly 3-yard runs, especially since the last game we played was them throwing us with runs. Yeah, man. I mean, there were certainly a few big runs that Josh Jacobs popped off, but for the most part, the run defense was outstanding today for sure.
We got to fly through these super chats, man. I appreciate you guys, by the way. Thank you.
Max Vega, appreciate it. Do you think we should have went for 4th and 4 when Hopkins missed that kick? By the way, love the pod. Yeah, let's talk about this one because obviously at that point in the game, let me make sure I have this right off of the play-by-play. Dustin Hopkins, that was after the interception by Bryce Callahan. So the Chargers had a short field. They get the ball on the Vegas 46-yard line. They get 1 first down, and then after the first down, they go Sony Michel, right tackle for 6 yards. Sony Michel, right guard for -1 yard. Justin Herbert, incomplete pass to Jalen Guyton deep. So, Arjun, I don't know if you have the numbers there, but was it a strong go for the Chargers at that point?
I have the numbers. It was actually just a toss-up. Just like basically the Chargers had a 96% win probability either way. So it didn't really matter what they did as long as it worked, and it just didn't. I mean, the Guyton throw, he was open, right? He just like overthrew him.
Yeah, he was
open, yeah.
I kind of wish that was a first down throw, but
Yeah, so Hopkins misses the field goal, and then the Raiders go down and score the touchdown, and then at that point it was 24-19. So
yeah, that's definitely when I was feeling the nervous part. No, I don't hate it. you go get 3 points, and that really just changes the math, I think, a bit there. So I get it. It's 48 yards. Over 50 with Hopkins, then yeah, maybe I'd go for it if it's 4 or 5 yards to go. But under 50, Hopkins should be making those.
Yeah, I think that Hopkins probably should have made that one. I did think the decision making just was a little bit the opposite of what I thought it would be at some points in the game. Even that terrific J.K. Scott punt where they down him inside the 2. I mean, that was a strong go for the Chargers there on what was 4th and 3. I really did think Brandon Staley was kind of going to go for it there. Doesn't. And then there's the weird hurry up QB sneak on what was 4th and a pretty long one. And they don't get that to go. So just some weird decision making in terms of going for it. And then I did think the play calling left a little bit to be desired when they did. So at that point, I think you kind of take the points and assume Hopkins is going to make that. And the fact that he didn't kind of stinks, but didn't end up costing them anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tyler.
I did have a question about this one from Max Vega. Are you guys concerned of Mike Williams' performance today? Out of curiosity, did they mention anything on the broadcast about him being hurt or banged up at all?
No.
There was whatever Herbert was trying to do on that sort of bootleg deep over or whatever it was supposed to be, the post route to Mike Williams that he, I believe, tried to set up. They tried to set up deep, that kind of classic, Herbert rolls to his right, throws back to his left sort of thing. I thought Mike Williams, after that play, got up kind of gingerly and sort of slowly walked off to the sideline. If there wasn't anything reported on that, maybe it was nothing. But I'm just curious if that was kind of part of what happened with Mike Williams today, where he only had 10 yards, wasn't even targeted, and that was, I believe, the second drive of the game. So I was just curious.
No, there was no mention of him being injured at all. Obviously he had like the 2 targets late in the 4th quarter, I want to say. And so he didn't look right to me on those. So maybe something happened on that deep over route, but it was very similar in terms of like the way they were spreading the ball around to last year's home Raiders games as well, where it was a lot of Jared Cook, it was a lot of Donald Parham, a lot of Austin Eckler, not a lot of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. And that, I mean, Keenan got hurt. Keenan was definitely involved early and often. But the lack of involvement to Mike Williams and Josh Palmer was confusing for sure, especially after you lose Keenan Allen. So I'll reserve final judgment, of course, until we see the all 22, because last year after the first Raiders game, it was like, oh, where's Mike? But he was open all game long, just not getting the ball. But very puzzling for sure. Like I said, you lose Keenan Allen and you're not, kind of cranking up Mike Williams and Josh Palmer at that point.
Alrighty, just real quick, since I still got this. Thank you, Mom, for the super sticker. I appreciate it. That was awesome.
And then your dad as well did a super sticker, didn't he?
It seems like it, yeah. So there's a lot of comments.
A lot of comments going on, yeah.
We're trying to get to them. Bolt Brett, I don't know. I just hate the Raiders. Thank you, Bolt Brett, for that one.
Yes, man, absolutely. That's an awesome comment. So, all right, I want to, of course, talk about the offensive line here. I think they certainly, you can kind of give them a mixed bag grade. Let's talk about them in terms of the pass blocking performances, because I think anytime you can hold Chandler Jones and Max Crosby to 0 sacks, although Max Crosby did have the one QB hit, which forced an incomplete pass from Justin Herbert. But I thought the offensive line in terms of pass protection was mostly fantastic. Tyler, what did you see in the stadium from those guys tonight?
I definitely want to see how this worked out for the tackles, because I think Herbert did a lot to kind of mask the fact that maybe he was kind of pressured out of the pocket, maybe he had to move a bit. But listen, overall, I owe Duke Manyweather and Trey Pipkins beer drinking, because I said I would buy some offensive line masterminds IPA or whatever they make if Trey Pipkins didn't allow a sack. And yeah, sure, did he allow 4 pressures or whatever? Arjun can speak to the unofficial stats. But you know what, man? You know what that's better than? 11 pressures and 2 sacks on the road against the Raiders. So as far as a first test goes, he hung in there, and I'm really, I guess, proud of the way Pipkins did today, all things considered, and really the offensive line in general. in terms of pass protection, did fantastic today. They really, I think Herbert was hit 3 times all day, and that's sure as shit better than last year.
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean,
You got it, Alex.
sorry. You just go to last game, which was just so jarring, and seeing the performance that Storm Norton had. If you can get away with 4 pressures, particularly going against Crosby, you take it. And if you told that to anyone before the game that Trey Pipkins would allow 4 pressures and no sacks, we would have all taken it. So I think that was just great from that standpoint. Aside from that, I thought the offensive line played really well. The missing report on Chandler Jones was obviously filed by Steven. Not anywhere really to be found throughout the game. So Slater obviously did, what Slater does at this point. It's kind of clockwork for him. But no, I thought the offensive line played really well. And we were just sort of looking for that Trey Pipkins variable and seeing how that would play out in real time. And it's a good first start, certainly, compared to what we thought it could have been in terms of how bad it could have been. So definitely great, going into week 2. Trey Pipkins obviously coming off of that game against the Chiefs last year. So I think this was a great, confidence booster and first test to kind of get this rolling.
Or do you want to speak? Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll just drop some stats. I know people are asking about it. So Pipkins allowed 4 pressures, Slater 3, Zion 2, Filer 2, and Lindsley 0. All of that on 35 pass blocking snaps. Not the best, not the worst. 2 quarterback hits, 1 from Pipkins, 1 from Slater. I think someone else asked. Jared asked, how did Zont do against Adams? I think I sent it to you guys. It was 3. It targeted him 5 times, 3 catches for like 37 yards and a touchdown, something like that. Actually, I think that should be more because he did have the 41-yard throw, like on the. So it'll be updated in the morning, but I think Asante held his own. But going back to the offensive line, I mean, I think they played well. 0 sacks is obviously a big plus, but I think we could probably agree that's more Herbert than the offensive line, and pressures is obviously something Herbert manages very, very well. That throw he made with I think it was Chandler Jones holding his ankle. You remember that over the middle where he couldn't generate any velocity by lunging forward, and he threw it just like that, and it still had more velocity than like 80% of NFL starting quarterbacks. I mean, that is just insane, like insane stuff by Herbert. So
Sorry, I thought you were done.
Yeah.
I think you see a lot of where Justin Herbert is so good in avoiding the sacks in areas where somebody like Joe Burrow takes a lot of unnecessary sacks, or Dak Prescott tonight in Sunday Night Football took a lot of unnecessary hits. Josh Allen takes a lot of unnecessary hits. So, I think people are kind of learning that the quarterback has a lot to do with sacks as well these days. But Rashawn Slater 3 pressures, Trey Pipkins 4 pressures. That might change a little bit. I remember like off the top of my head, like probably 5 for Trey. But again, his mission today was to avoid the Avalanche game, and he did that successfully. And so mission accomplished. I think he played a very good game, and we'll see kind of how what the film paints as well. But I mean, I try to tell Raiders fans, man, Chandler Jones was not getting anywhere close to Justin Herbert more than a couple of stunts or something like that. Rashawn Slater is him as well. So, of course, I'm taking all the victory laps against that, those kind of arguments. But again, I think you, together with the offensive line, with Brendan Nugent, with Justin Herbert, you feel really good about the Chargers' protection going forward. However, I was very disappointed in the way that they blocked the Raiders' run defense. This was an area that I thought the Chargers should have been able to excel at. Of course, you have Max Crosby, who's one of the best run defending edges in the league. But you have Andrew Billings, who was not on a team last year, playing significant snaps for the Raiders. You have Bilal Nichols, who was worse than Jerry Tillery as a run defender last year. And the Chargers put up 2.6 yards per carry. So I think some of that is just not having a preseason, not being able to really hit each other all that much. Some of that is working with the new starters along the right side. Some of that, of course, is the running backs themselves. There was that bizarre decision by Austin Eckler to bounce a play at the end zone and nearly got a safety called. So the run game to me was something that I thought would be a big time advantage in this game, and it turned out to be the only weakness, but it was their biggest weakness by far in this one. So a lot to iron out there. I'm curious again to kind of go watch the all-22, but very, very disappointed in the Chargers rushing attack today.
Yeah. Just not a lot that went positive for them. Obviously, Eckler, my bold prediction of 170 combined yards did not come true in this one today. But a lot of Sony Michel, a lot more than I thought there would be. And it didn't always look pretty in that respect either. But yeah, I definitely thought that compared to what we thought it would be going into the game, you can just run it down the Raiders' throats. I think the Raiders, to their credit, played better than a lot of people expected them to, considering the pieces on their interior defensive line. But I think the Chargers, as much as they held up in the passing game, did not hold up in the run game much at all. Outside of a couple, decisive Josh Kelly runs, it just didn't really feel like they had much of a grip on this one in terms of what they were doing on each run. And so I hope that, communication does improve going into week 2.
Yeah, so just really quickly before Tyler Argent jumps in, Austin Eckler, 14 carries, 36 yards, 2.6 per. Joshua Kelly, 4 carries, 21 yards. So he was good. I felt like he was decisive, like Alex said. 5.3 yards per carry for him. Sony Michel, I thought would have a bigger impact in this game. 7 carries, 12 yards, 1.7 yards per carry. They had the one end around to Josh Palmer for 4 yards. Then Herbert had a fullback dive for 2 yards, and then Justin Herbert 4 carries for 1 yard. I thought Justin could have scored on that one scramble where he took the unnecessary roughness, but that's kind of nitpicking. So 31 carries, 76 yards for the Chargers rushing attack. That is simply not good enough. I do expect it to be better going forward, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some people equate plays not working with maybe bad play calling. And I think there's definitely that for sure with Joe Lombardi today. But I wish they had just executed better. I don't blame them at all for leaning on the run as much as they did, especially without Keenan Allen. Again, that was their strength against the Raiders last year. That's how they closed out that game. That's how they really scored 2 touchdowns and 2, in the middle of that awful game against the Raiders until things got going. They had to run the ball to find their momentum. So I don't hate it. They upgraded everything this offseason so they could run the ball. It just didn't work. Me personally, at this point, I know it's very early to give up on the guy, but I would let's give Spiller a shot. If he's healthy, I think there's just a part of the dynamic part of this offense that you're missing. Maybe not even as a runner, but if Joe Lombardi's working this guy in with the starting offense and he's running wheel routes and angle routes and go routes and whatever out of the backfield, and then you're like, nah, here's Sony Michel who just learned the offense last week. I feel like you're kind of capping your offense there. So will they activate Spiller for the Chiefs game? Probably not, I guess, but
I would be surprised.
I feel like you're missing an element, not even just like your rushing attack, but your running back attack. That's what Spiller does. He did it fantastic in the at camp. So give him a shot.
Laughing at this Raiders fan comment. Bills and Chargers are the same team with different standards. Always disappointing. The Bills are the best team in the league right now, man. Like, what are we doing here?
What have the Raiders done in 20 years? Like,
I think it's pretty funny how I think Raiders fans are they're trying to bring the Charger fans down by saying, "Oh, you only won by 5," or I think they're forgetting we didn't have J.C. Jackson. Keenan was out for 3/4 of the game. The Chargers not only won, they covered the 3.5, so they kind of exceeded the market's expectations while missing 2 of the best players on the team. I mean, I don't really know what they're so mad about. I think that they're just it's their way of coping to this loss.
Comparing the Chargers to the Bills is not an insult. Like, that's a compliment, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. The Bills are an awesome team right now. So we'll get back to it a little bit. I do want to talk about Joe Lombardi and his play calling. And I always reserve final judgment on play calling in terms of watching the all-22. I definitely think that he was conservative in the second half. There was no rhythm in the second half, but they also went 3 and out, 3 drives in a row. And some of that was simply due to execution. Like I mentioned, Austin Eckler, at the 2-yard line, you cannot bounce runs at the 2-yard line. You can't do that. And then you have Trey McKitty with an egregious drop. Like that dude had 15 yards of grass in front of him easily. Again, we talked about the Mike Williams slant later on early in the fourth quarter.
Mhm.
It was a great play by Nate Hobbs, but it just looked a little out of sync from Herbert and Mike Williams. So I can understand being a little frustrated about the conservative play. Again, they just did not have the kind of rhythm late in the second half to really make any kind of true impression on play calling for me. Again, I would definitely like to see them open it up a little bit more with Justin Herbert for sure. But I think at that point, you're up 2 scores. You're trying to physically impose your will. And I get it. Like running the ball is not super efficient. But Brandon Staley has said he wants his team to be physically dominant. He wants them to be tough. And in football, you do that by running the ball. You do that with your offensive line that you invested 2 first-round picks in, spent a lot of money on the left side and the center, and they just didn't do that today. So I'm going to reserve judgment here on Joe Lombardi, but I do think there were some definitely puzzling calls in this one, specifically like the quarterback sneak. I did not love at all.
Yeah, I thought it could have been a lot better, particularly in the second half. Just a lot cleaner
Sure.
football that could have been played. Then again, the other team was like, all right, let's do a play where Derek Carr blocks Joey Bosa and Devontae Adams, tries to throw the ball. So
Sure.
I think they got bailed out by Josh McDaniels being Josh McDaniels to an extent. But overall, yeah, uneven second half. And it was just surprising to see that, considering how consistently they took shots in the first half, regardless of Keenan Allen not being on the field, particularly on the DeAndre Carter drive. It didn't matter whether it was like Gerald Everett or whoever was open. They were just kind of going to whoever. And then because I think of the Keenan Allen injury and because of some other factors, then they started leaning on the run game and they started leaning on Sony Michel. And it's like, I don't really know why they did that or felt the need to do it, other than just, at one point they were up by 2 scores and like trying to kind of burn clock. But definitely thought it could have been better from Joe Lombardi today, and hope for, especially, considering you're playing the Chiefs and considering what that game could potentially be like, either a track meet or you're playing from behind, then that, just needs to improve on Thursday.
Yeah, I think the thing to add to that is like I'm with Steven in the fact that like I think if it was working, and then I'd be open to like, okay, continue to running the ball.
Sure.
But just just some of the stats behind today, the Chargers pretty much added 0.57 points every time they threw the ball on first and second down. They lost about 0.38 points every time they ran the ball. They passed the ball 26 times on early downs. They ran the ball 23 times on early downs. So when you have a quarterback like Herbert, I would hope that split is more 65-35 or 70-30. I'm not saying you don't run the ball at all, because that's not how the NFL works.
Sure.
I do want to ask, like, do you think Keenan getting hurt kind of changed the game plan, especially on early downs, to like, okay, maybe we shouldn't pass the ball as much, and maybe we should lean on the run game even if it isn't working?
I mean, considering all of training camp, how much they were attacking deep, or deepish, not like 80 yards down the field, but like 20, 30 yards with Keenan. And considering that was what they did twice, they had a 40-yarder to Keenan today, and then suddenly that kind of goes away when he's out. I think, yeah, it has to do something with that. Now, why can't you involve Mike Williams and Josh Palmer with that?
Right.
I don't know. But again, I didn't see, like, I'm watching from the stand, so I want to see what happened on the all-22 first before I really say anything.
Yeah, I think the Chargers clearly went into this game thinking that they would be able to run the ball on the Raiders, and I think they should have pivoted 100%. I agree with people saying that they should have pivoted. I would have loved to see Josh Palmer get more involved. I would have loved to see Mike Williams get more involved. So Keenan, I think, probably changed, maybe kind of the focal point of the offense, but they still should have been able to get, more production. And it was an everybody issue. Like, I understand that the thing is always to blame the play caller, but again, you have a bad decision by Austin Eckler. You have a drop by Trey McKitty. You have a bad slant route by Mike Williams. So it was just kind of a mess overall in the second half. And obviously Joe Lombardi is to blame there as well. But I do expect it obviously to get better. The first game last year, second game last year was not exactly, super efficient on offense either. So, I expect it to be better going forward for sure.
Yeah, and like I think the thing is like even if you get to third down, you have third and Herbert. So like I'm not like too concerned if they get to third down by running it on first and second, but obviously you don't want to lean into that type of variance, or you don't want to be putting Herbert in those like high leverage situations a lot of the times, because eventually things will regress to the mean. But like Herbert could just be like a complete alien in that regard, and continue to push our data analysis past its boundaries, which he's already done in his first 2 years. So in regards to the play calling, like yeah, I think that's like Steven said, a all 22 thing. But when you have the lead, I would like to see them put their foot down a little bit more.
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
And if the run isn't working, I just didn't agree with going back to it at that time. But I mean, overall, they were still moving the ball at will in the first half, and especially when you lose your wide receiver one, that does change a lot of the game plan in the playbook. So, I'm not too hard on Lombardi as much as other people are, and they still were pretty positive on the day in terms of EPA. So, not too worried there. I just would like to see a little more adjustments going forward.
Alex, anything to add there?
No, I think we added everything. I mean, I do think just going forward, they're going to rely, on Herbert quite a bit, particularly where they're playing from behind. But I would just like to see the playing from ahead be a little bit more, better just in general and more consistent. Then again, I think that'll kind of come with time in the season, and the more that all these guys get to work with each other throughout the year.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll get back to the defense here. Of course, have to talk about kind of what unfolded on that side of the ball. You get, like I said, 6 sacks from this defense, including 3 from Mr. Khalil Mack, who Argent. I pulled receipts on Rashawn Slater. Argent pulled some receipts on Khalil Mack today. So you get 3 sacks from Khalil Mack, including and as well as 3 tackles for loss. He hit Derek Carr 4 times today overall. Derwin James gets a sack. Joey Bosa had 1.5, including his first strip sack of the day. And who else? Morgan Fox was the other half of that 1.5 from Joey Bosa. So, Tyler, what'd you make of the debut of this revamped pass rush from the Chargers today?
Look, man, you hear about it. No, Khalil Mack looks great. And of course, I recorded a video and oh my God, he looks great. And everyone's like, ooh, he looks good. But you really don't know. And honestly, as a typical Chargers fan, it was about 6 plays into the game. And I'm thinking, oh no, Khalil Mack hasn't had 14 sacks yet. Like, what did we do wrong? And then, of course, he takes some lineman or tight end and throws him in the car and gets 1 sack. It's okay, pretty cool, nice. Then he gets another sack. It's like, okay, cool. Then he gets another one, to force, 4th down, or actually to turn the ball over. And it's like, man, thank you, John Gruden. You wanted to trade him away. Now he's back with us. Now he's getting revenge against the Raiders that you used to coach and helping the Chargers get the win. 3 sacks from Mack, 2 from Joey Bosa. What is it, 7 or 8 total quarterback hits or whatever it was. It was 9. Jeez. It was a pleasure. I'll say that much. It was a priv in a good way.
Priv in a good way. So Arjun, do you have the pressure numbers that you can share there?
Yeah, I do, and has been updated. Khalil Mack now up to 7 pressures on the day. Ooh. On top of the 3 sacks. So yeah, I mean, I have more receipts. I definitely want to save them for later, and I just wanted to give the folks a little taste. But I mean, I was arguing with someone saying Trey Hendrickson's better than Khalil Mack, and I'm just like, what the hell are we doing here? So I had to bring that one back. But I mean, I don't know if there's any way to make a better, statement against in your first game with a new team. 7 pressures, 3 quarterback sacks, 4 hurries. Another play where he beat Colton Miller, and again, like he was doing all of this against Colton Miller, who is a very good left tackle. I mean, he's getting paid like a top 10 left tackle for a reason, right? So one of the best pass protectors in the business. And I mean, Khalil Mack kind of took him to work. I think there were I think one of the sacks was more of a cleanup sack, the one where Carr kind of stepped up into Mack, and Mack, it was just relentless pressure after that. But yeah, I mean, Mack was awesome. Bosa, he had 1.5 sacks, 3 pressures for him, 3 pressures for Morgan Fox. Derwin had 2 on 3 pass rush attempts. So, that's something I hope to continue to see going forward, not next week against the Chiefs, but going forward. And then Rumph with 1 and Callahan with 1 on that slot blitz he came on, where he came all the way around and I believe got a hand on Carr. Yeah. And Devontae was wide open in the middle of the field on that play. So if Callahan wasn't there, that could have been a pretty bad play. But overall, it was an okay performance by the pass rush. I think the first half got me a little bit worried, and then Mack and Bosa really showed up towards the end. So really, really love to see that, and definitely going to need it next week where you're like straight up. I'll talk about it in my analytics thing, but you can't blitz Mahomes. So it's really going to be up to the main guys to get the job done up front.
Did you see how often the Cardinals blitz Mahomes today?
54%.
Why?
My God.
And like that. I mean, I don't know. I know people on their analytics staff there. I just like they know you can't blitz Mahomes. I just think it's Vance Joseph's like style of defense. So, I mean, Cardinals are something for sure. I mean, I don't know what they were watching in the offseason, but
I think after the 41st point my defense allowed, I'd probably stop blitzing. But, that's just me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought this revamped defense looked really good. You talk about Khalil Mack. I feel like there was a point in the offseason, particularly like maybe right after the trade happened, where it's like, Khalil Mack's this like declining asset. He's getting older and like all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, he's fucking Khalil Mack. Like, what are we talking about here? And, you showed why you upgrade over, Uchenna Nwosu, who had a good season last year, but it's just like this guy is on a different level. And when he's healthy, is a top 5 edge rusher in the league. And if you could put 2 of those guys next to each other, and Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, you instantly probably have the best pass rushing duo in the NFL. And so, how valuable that is, particularly in this game where you don't have JC Jackson. And you need that defensive line pressure because Devontae Adams, particularly in that first half in the beginning of the third quarter, is going off. The fact that they got that later on in the game and they just kind of broke the Raiders' offensive line down, as the game went on, I just think was a really important effort to see. Would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the interior defensive line pass rush, from that standpoint, but for what we got in this game, obviously Derwin and everybody else contributing to, the pass rush there was great. But for the first outing of Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack and what that was supposed to be, it lived up to everything I think we thought it would be.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The sheer power that Khalil Mack brings to the table. There were multiple rushes against Illuminor, or however you say it, a couple against Colton Miller, where he just, has them in Derek Carr's lap. And the final sack that sealed the game, man, like it wasn't nearly as impressive as like Von Miller long arming Joe Noteboom on Thursday, but it was damn impressive, just bull rushing him to death. So I thought he was fantastic today. Obviously, somebody pointed out really did a great job in the run game as well. I saw some people saying that like Joey didn't have a great game. I mean, he had a strip sack and another sack, but you could tell that their plan was to kind of dare Khalil and the other guys to beat them. And that was a bold strategy, I have to say, particularly against a former Raider. So they were chipping and double teaming Joey all game long. I think that's going to be the case throughout the year. It's just now that the Chargers have somebody to really take advantage of those decisions and make you pay. And that's what Khalil Mack did today. He took full advantage of his one-on-one opportunities and obviously made the Raiders' life hell.
Is Orlando Brown still playing for the Chiefs?
He is, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, that'll be fun either way. As far as the interior guys go, so Morgan Fox had 3 pressures. Tillery had 0. 0 elsewhere as well?
Yeah, 0 elsewhere.
I think there was maybe 1 you could get from Austin Johnson and like maybe 1 from Sebastian, but not a ton from those 2, unfortunately.
Yeah, Johnson did have a pretty important pass, like a batted down pass was it second down or third down? I think it was
I think
second.
it was second down. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought those two played really well against the run. I did.
Mhm.
And Austin Johnson had a couple of really good plays. Sebastian, of course, as well, setting the line of scrimmage. But, I thought that they would be able to kind of make a bigger impact as pass rushers for sure.
Yeah.
Almost that time, Tyler. We're almost done, man. Definitely want to talk about the secondary today. I think a lot of people kind of freaking out a little bit about Davante Adams and like what he was able to do. But you hold Hunter Renfrow to I think it was 4 catches. I mean, Darren Waller had 4 catches for 79 yards. Overall, I thought the secondary was really solid. Bryce Callahan was fantastic in the slot. I thought today, obviously, had the interception. And then Asante Samuel Jr. had a pass breakup in the interception. Again, that interception, man, it's not going to get enough love because Derek threw 2 other ones. But there was like this miscommunication going on between Bryce and Asante was on the outside, and Bryce had his like left shoulder turned towards the sideline and was still like talking with Asante when Davante started running his route. And Asante realized that it was going to Davante and just bailed and recovered. And fortunately, it was not an underthrow defensive pass interference, but was a hell of a catch by Asante Samuel Jr. for sure. Overall, I thought the secondary was pretty solid without J.C. Jackson today.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was right in the fact that like no one can cover Davante, and that kind of reared its head at times, especially on third downs on the opening drive. But I think they did overall a pretty good job. You don't get 3 picks by being lucky. The Asante and Callahan picks and Tranquil
was nice too.
Straight skill like that. Tranquil baited him. Asante had a great pick out of the air, and then Callahan made a great break on the ball. I think last year in the Chiefs game, I was like, okay, the defensive performance is overrated because the 2 picks and the 2 fumbles were, one of the picks was a tip ball, the other one was like a punt by Mahomes, right? I think these interceptions felt different. This defensive performance felt different. And I think it's a good sign going forward, especially since the Chargers didn't have their best, cover corner. The only thing I would say I would like to see is, the Chargers don't really have a habit of forcing 3 and outs all that often, and they kind of let the Raiders build up a drive, a little bit of bend don't break here and there. But I think going forward, being able to stop them early and often would be nice. But overall, I think the coverage unit was great. Asante held his own against Davante, even if he did get, put on the highlight feed a couple of times. But who doesn't get put on the highlight feed?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's everybody.
I guess Michael Davis in 2019. Yes.
Yeah. I thought it was a really good game all around from the secondary. Obviously, Michael Davis and Asante Samuel Jr. took their lumps with Davante Adams, like as everyone does. But aside from that, like I don't really remember the last Chargers game where Hunter Renfrow just wasn't a factor, like really much at all. It felt like, and Bryce Callahan kind of was a big part in that. You have Darren Waller who dropped the touchdown, but pretty limited throughout most of the game. And so for me, I thought this was just a really solid effort, especially considering this is the week JC's out, to be able to get this win and hold the other pieces of the Raiders receiving group, to fairly minimal production outside of Davante Adams. I think that's a really just solid effort all around.
What do you think went into the decision to officially make Asante Samuel Jr. the quote unquote corner 1 today over someone like Michael Davis? Because obviously it was Davis leading up to this game.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it's Asante Samuel Jr. covering Davante Adams the most, unless that was Raiders schemed up somehow. But I would assume that they had viewed ASJ as that corner 1. What do you think went into that switch up?
I'm sure there was some of that. It didn't really seem like Asante and Davis were rotating as much as I thought they would. There wasn't a whole lot of Davis on Darren Waller, for example, which I was kind of surprised at. But to me, it was probably the Raiders trying to seek out an advantage, and they did move Davante into the slot quite a bit as well. So I feel like the Chargers were like, we're gonna have Bryce on Renfrow 1-on-1, and that's gonna be like our linchpin for the week, and then everybody else was kind of focused in on helping the outside. So I was okay with the game plan outside of the 140-yard catch, which was an insane route by Davante, man. That really was just like incredible. Outside of that, everything else was short. Everything was rally and tackle. So I feel like that was their game plan, was to kind of, like Arden said, bend, don't break when it comes to Devontae. And for the most part, I feel like it was success.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think that the Chargers analytics team played a little bit of a part in here. I think Asante last year was a little bit of a better corner than Michael Davis, but also I think it could be for matchup purposes. Mack Collins is 6'3", 6'4". Michael Davis does match up a little bit better with him, and Davis also matches up better with Waller when he lines up on the outside. So you kind of are left with Asante either guarding Renfro, which means Callahan is guarding someone else, which just doesn't make sense. So I think when you kind of like eliminate all of the possibilities, you're left with Asante on Devontae. And I mean, like I said, he held its own. You're not going to no corners are really ever going to win a game against Devontae unless, they're the best of the best, which, our best of the best was missing today.
Yeah, like I said, I'm very impressed with the way Asante battled. And, this was the guy that we all loved in the draft, right? Like, he certainly took his lumps. It would be very easy for, a second-year corner to get a little cooked on that route and then just kind of be, not super focused into this matchup. But, came back from that, had a really nice tackle and run defense, had a pass breakup, had the interception. So I thought Asante played about as well as you can expect for, your CB2 against Davante Adams. So we'll start wrapping up the show here. I want to talk about one area of concern that we want to see kind of fixed for the next few weeks, not necessarily Thursday for the Chiefs. And then we will hand out, quote unquote, our game balls of the week. So Alex, we'll start with you. What's one thing that you definitely want to see the Chargers clean up as they get ready for the Chiefs and, of course, moving forward?
I'll say interior pass rush situation just in terms of what they're doing there, but I don't know if there's much to clean up other than like getting Jerry Tillery to come to work and do his job. I don't know if there's a whole lot more you could do other than that. Perhaps don't inactivate Braden Fehoko if you want to treat this as though it's a meritocracy. And, he's obviously the more deserving player at this point, even though, you need 2 pass rushers. The production you've seen from Jerry Tillery just isn't warranting seeing the field right now. And Braden Fehoko is someone who's constantly deserved that, shown that he's deserved to be on the field. So I'd like to see that situation kind of get cleared up. I'd also kind of like to see if, Morgan Fox, if it continues this way, is really in that, starter role, going forward. We kind of talked about that all preseason. We never really got a definitive answer on it until today. So I'd like to see how that, those reps kind of continue going forward. Aside from that, I just would like to see Sebastian Joseph Day and Austin Johnson a little bit more involved in the pass rush. But I think that's something that obviously both of them played well today. And you just would like to see that a little bit more going forward.
Alrighty, I would say find Mike Williams, because 10 yards was cute when you were a rookie. It's not when you are making $20 million annually. I don't know if that's his fault or not. I really don't. But you can't have your first target be a drop, that you don't get another target until way late for all of 6 yards or whatever it was. Then you can't win on a slant versus Nate Hobbs to set up any kind of first down. They're trying to put the ball in Herbert's hands, get it to the $20 million receiver. You can't win a slant there. A little bit more would be great next week. More than 10 yards if you're making $20 million would be solid. Again, don't know if it's his fault, but you got to find a way to get him more involved.
I mean, Mike loves playing in Arrowhead, man. So we'll see. I guess maybe bounce back in a big way.
Fair enough.
Arden, your thoughts here, man?
Yeah, no, Tyler kind of took mine. I did want to say, I think I do want to see a bounce back from the receiver room, especially the top targets, which is Palmer and Williams. Like, I mean, I'm all for Herbert spreading the ball around, but I think I don't know. So I don't think that will work against some of the top teams, and the Chiefs are one of those teams. And thinking about the way Steve Spagnuolo plays defense, he likes to blitz a lot. He likes to show a lot of exotic pressures, or not exotic looks that turn into pressures, a lot of stunts. So you need to have guys that can get open quickly. And if Keenan's not going to be there, I mean, Mike's never been the greatest separator. Palmer's been hyped up as, this guy now, and he's going to have to step up. Guyton is not that guy, and Carter, I'd like to think he's that guy, but one game it's hard to overreact after one game. So I think separation is really important because Herbert making all these plays off script eventually will, it won't be as favorable for him. And so getting open quickly, being able to find guys on those like shotgun RPOs that they were killing the Raiders on early, I think that'll be super important. And if you can get Keenan back, great, because he's going to cook whoever the Chiefs put on him, and I'm pretty sure Trent McDuffie already got hurt, if I'm not mistaken. So,
wow, did not know that.
Yeah. So, but L'Jarius Sneed and Rashad Fenton are still two pretty good corners. So, it's still going to be a battle, and the receiver room I think will help to dictate how well the Chargers play next week or this Thursday.
Yeah, I think you guys covered a lot of the offensive things that I think you need to see improved. But Dustin Hopkins, man, I'm not there yet, but 2 bad misses in the last 3 times we've seen him play. So I'm very hopeful that we're not seeing Washington version of Dustin, and hopefully he can figure his stuff out a little bit. Again, we can talk about other offensive issues. I feel like we've talked about that, but that missed field goal was very important. Was a very important point in the game. So hopefully he's able to figure it out. All right, we'll do game balls here, and then we'll wrap it up. Arjun, your biggest game ball of the day goes to who?
I want to say Justin Herbert. I think without him, the Chargers, or without him playing the way he did, I don't think the Chargers win this game. I think because the run game was so stagnant, we needed that type of alien performance from Herbert, where he's averaging about like 0.35 EPA per play, which I think is going to be second behind Mahomes this week. And I mean, he has right now 3 big time throws, 0 turnover worthy plays, literally made no mistakes in my opinion, and still got screwed over by Trey McKitty and Mike Williams dropping the ball on him. So just another performance from an elite quarterback who is only going to get better. And again, we have to be pushing narratives out here. So, Justin Herbert is that guy, and I think today proved that.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, we'll get to yours, and then Tyler's after that.
Look, Justin Herbert's cool, but the MVP today was DeAndre Carter coming in for Keenan Allen and doing everything he did on that drive. I said he was the breakout candidate of the season potentially for the Chargers, and I think he showed why the coaching staff believed in him today, the way that he came in. And I don't know if it's overreacting to, one game as, potential as a route runner going forward and what he can be for this team, because he did all these things in Washington last year when Curtis Samuel went down and didn't come back. And, he came into games, was one of the best, most efficient red zone scorers in the NFL. What he did, even on a limited sample size, and had always had that target premium with good quarterbacks or bad quarterbacks in Washington. Now he finally has Justin Herbert. I think that the Chargers should really utilize him in the offense going forward, especially if you're not going to have Keenan Allen potentially on Thursday night. And it's going to be a struggle for me to not stream him in fantasy. I'm going to have to hold myself back from getting fully on the DeAndre Carter hype train. But in all seriousness, it was a really good effort on a day where Mike Williams didn't have the best game. Keenan gets hurt. And Jalen Guyton didn't really show up much. I think that it was really needed for him to get that spark to the team when he did.
Yeah. If Steven might give this other one one salt, never mind, I'll forget it, but I'll give it to Asante Samuel Jr.
Okay.
Definitely could give it to Khalil Mack. I think that's very obvious, but Asante Samuel Jr., there was at least 2 spots on this team where we're going, like, this is it. This is make or break for this team this week. One of them being right tackle, obviously. And while it wasn't pretty, 3 receptions on 5 targets for, I think Arjun had it at 57 yards. 1 touchdown allowed for sure, and that was a great grab by Adams, but also 1 interception, 1 pass broken up, and just a fantastic mentality the whole way through. He didn't lose. Like, yeah, sure, he lost, get back up, interception, and then he'd lose, get a pass broken up. Like, he was consistently there mentally, and that's huge. He did make plays, got the game ball from Staley, gets the game ball from me, which is just as important.
Just as important is our approval of Asante as well as Brandon Staley's. Absolutely. So yeah, I think there's some love here for Trey Pipkins in the chat. I always like to reserve game balls for offensive linemen if I see more all 22 stuff. So I think you have to give one to Khalil Mack today, being able to show up the way that he did. And like I said earlier, just make the Raiders pay for their game plans. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how teams combat this going forward, because you can't just leave Khalil Mack on an island and thinking otherwise is going to get you a result like today. So I thought he was fantastic. And Brandon Staley said after the fact, he's one of the best leaders on this defense. And I think you kind of see his mentality, pay dividends here. So Khalil definitely deserves one. I would have been curious if somebody else had taken Khalil. I was going to give a shout out to Bryce Callahan as well. I thought somebody deserves. He's somebody that deserves a shout out for sure.
Yeah, him. I think in mild spurts, Xander Horvath. I think Gerald Everett did. I think the special teams, J.K. Scott did. Really complimentary football, except for the run game, but for the most part, complimentary.
Like you said, I think you feel better about where this team is at after you get past players like 1 through 10. Last year it was a lot of like Herbert and Keenan and Mike Williams and Derwin James and Joey Bosa. There weren't those guys to be like secondary playmakers that would show up consistently. And if Gerald Everett can be that guy, fantastic. If DeAndre Carter can be that guy, great as well. But this was a good showing from all of the roster adjustments for sure. Like I said, I can give a hat tip to Tom Telesco and Brandon Staley for, assembling this group together. All right. That's going to do it for us. Thank you guys so much for joining us in the chat today. We got up to, I think, as high as 600. So kicking the season off the right way. Appreciate all the super chats as well. If you are listening to the audio version of this, please leave a rating or review. We greatly appreciate that as well. We'll be live back on Tuesday for some thoughts from some of our film study, as well as preparing for the Chiefs game on Thursday. So quick turnaround, Amazon Prime. Definitely would encourage everybody to check those accounts and make sure you're not missing that game. So Tyler, Arjun, and Alex, appreciate the time. Everybody appreciate the chat. We'll talk to you soon.